Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Grego. I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes or so. This webinar is for diabetics, people with diabetes. If you do not have diabetes, consider sharing this video with somebody who does. The title for today's webinar is How to Reverse Diabetes Without Dangerous Drugs or Risky Surgeries. Now, my goal is to get you to understand what I call three inconvenient truths. They're inconvenient about diabetes because they're keeping you locked in to being sick and diseased. And if you'll do me a favor and stay till the end of this webinar, I promise I'll have a surprise that you're really going to enjoy. All right. Now, who am I and why should you listen to me? Well, I'm a doctor of chiropractic and I'm a doctor of naturopathy. And I've been practicing in the state of Georgia for over 30 years. I've been privileged enough to help 15,000 people reach their health and wellness goals, and I'm the author of 3 books. First one is the Nutritional Ketogenic Diet. The second book is Clean Keto versus Dirty Keto. And by the way, this webinar has nothing to do with keto, so don't worry. The last book, though, the Insulin Diet, this webinar does have to do with insulin. And I created a 90-day smartphone program to bring diabetics just like you back to normal. All right. So I've done a lot of things right over the last 30 years. Like I've pioneered some cold lasers or what we call red light therapy. I've also utilized pulsed electromagnetic frequency machines. This is called PEMF. I've also used hyperbaric oxygen to help heal and bring the cells back to normal faster. I've also utilized stem cell therapy, cutting edge stem cell therapy. And finally, I've created a lot of nutraceuticals, the latest and greatest being the Insulin Fiber Blend, the best and safest way to mitigate your insulin spikes. Now, I've done a few things wrong, unfortunately, over the last 30 years as well. I've done something like isolate chemistry. What does that mean? Basically, I told my patients to take just vitamin C or vitamin A or vitamin B. And it's like, when you isolate chemistry, number one, that's not how it's found in nature. Vitamin C, for example, is straight ascorbic acid, so it's very irritating. Typically, it comes with zinc, manganese, selenium, other catalysts so you can uptake it without harming yourself. Does that make sense? And whatever your body produces, if you take it from the outside and it manufactures it on the inside, it'll stop manufacturing it. So we call that a negative feedback loop, and that's not okay, you can imagine. So I also told my patients to eat more protein because after all, protein makes big, strong muscles, right? But it also damages those muscles because proteins are very acid. They leave an acidic ash, and that's toxic, hypoxic, acidic, and it tears down or damages our cells, so it's not okay. And I've told my patients to stay away from fruit because it was too sweet, right? But hey, fructose is a simple sugar that is preferred by every one of our 100 trillion cells. And it's pointed out, and I can point that out by the fact that none of our cells have a receptor for fructose. It's not needed. So in other words, when glucose or galactose or lactose or ribose or any other sugar tries to come into the cell, they need an escort called insulin, right? But otherwise they're not coming in. But fructose doesn't need insulin. It could come in and give your cell energy because it's preferred fuel. Then lastly, I did tell my patients, I'm sure you've heard this yourself from your other doctors, how's your urine? Is it clear? Do you have clear urine? Because that's healthy urine. No, clear urine is not healthy. The kidneys are water filtration plants. And, if they're not filtering out the garbage, then they're not they're not doing their job. So we should see cloudy urine. We should see filtration in the urine. We should see sediment in our urine, especially first thing in the morning. All right. After helping 15,000 patients over 30 years, like I said, I've distilled all that information, the right and wrongs, down to 3 secrets that modern medicine does not want you to know. And I call them the 3 inconvenient truths, like I said. And they literally are boxing you in and keeping you held down and keeping you from being healed and getting off your medications. So let's take a look. What are those secrets? The first secret or the inconvenient truth is diabetes is not a disease. What? Yes, let me explain. Let's break down the word. Diabetes comes from the Greek to mean siphon off fluid. Mellitus comes from Latin to mean honey or sweet. So if you put together those two words, they're not a disease, they're actually sweet pea. That's right. It means your urine is sweet. That is not a disease or an etiology. That is a description. So what you really want to know is, why do I have sweet pea, right? And we're going to talk about that. The second inconvenient truth and secret is for type 2 diabetics. This is where the prevailing understanding today is that diabetes, or sweet pea, is a gummed up lock and key. By that I mean the lock is gummed up for some strange reason, and the key is gummed and it won't fit in and it doesn't turn for some unknown reason. So by the way, the key is insulin, the lock is the receptor. We don't know why, they're just gummed up. Now that's kind of a lame definition, don't you think? So what's a better one? Well, we now know that diabetes, sweet pea, is caused by cells that have reached their capacity. So in other words, it's called supersaturation of glucose intracellularly. It's when you have too much glucose in the cell and the insulin cannot put any more in. It's kind of like a sponge that's completely soaked with water, and you want to put another drop or two or three on the sponge or in the sponge. It's not going. It'll just roll off on the floor. So if the sponge is your cell, the floor is your blood and your urine, and the water is sugar. It can't get, you got to squeeze that sponge if you want to get more sugar in. And we're going to talk about how to squeeze the sponge in just a second. But here's another example of what I'm saying, and so you'll understand how true it is. And that is, if you've ever taken your sugar reading before you go to bed, and then you wake up and it's higher, assuming you didn't get up in the middle of the night and eat anything, where did that sugar come from? Excess of sugar in your cells. Now they can dump it because you only have about 4 hours of glycogen in your liver. So if you sleep longer than 4 hours, you got to go into the cell to get more energy. And that's when the cell has an opportunity to dump sugar. And that's why your readings are higher. Now, doesn't that make more sense? Capacity, you've reached capacity rather than for some unknown reason, your lock and key are gummed up, right? All right. So you don't have to be upset or mad, but we got to go to the second B part of the secret, or the inconvenient truth, for type 1s or type 1.5s. So this is where y'all who are type 1 and type 1.5, you don't produce enough insulin, or the insulin you produce is ineffective. So that's in the islands of Langerhans inside your pancreas, where you have beta cells, and your beta cells are actually what produce the insulin, or what's supposed to produce the insulin. So if they're not, or if it's immature insulin, then you can regenerate those cells. Yes, you can. Look at my fingernails. These aren't the same from last year. This hair on my head is not the same from last year. If I was to eat something, 5 minutes later, I'd be producing more new regenerative stomach cells because the hydrochloric acid would take them out. So you can and do regenerate natural, normal, healthy cells, but you have to have the proper tools. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment as well. So the third inconvenient truth is simply that diabetes is not a chronic, progressive, incurable disease. As you can see to the right, that's a study from the Bariatric Surgery and Diabetes Reversal Medical Center, University of Pittsburgh. And they say for many patients, up to 80%, after bariatric surgery, where they do a stomach stapling or a stomach sleeve, they're no longer a type 2. Their diabetes has reversed. It's gone back to normal. They're healthy people again. Now, I'm not advocating surgery, because we don't have to. I created a 90-day back to normal diabetic program for you so that you don't have to have surgery. And it's even a little more effective than 80%. It's actually 93.2% effective. So you got to ask yourself, why didn't I know these three inconvenient truths? Could it be that there's more money in the treatment than there is the cure of diabetes? It's kind of sad, isn't it? Well, I could be your solution now, because I've helped thousands of diabetics, as I said, over the last 30 years, whether you're type 1, type 1.5, type 2, and whether you're newly diagnosed or somebody that's had it for 10, 20, 30 years or more. And I may help you, but I'm not going to reverse your diabetes. What? I'm not going to cure you. What? What am I going to do for you? I'm going to bring you back to normal in 90 days. But doctor, there must be a catch then. There must be a catch. There is a catch. You're right. The catch is simply this: you would have to have been normal at one point in your lifetime. So in other words, if you didn't get a diagnosis of diabetes till you were 2 or 3 or 10 or 11 or 15 or older, then you can be helped just like these patients you're seeing here. Now, if you've never been normal, then let me say that you need something like gene editing therapies like CRISPR or cross-linking collagens, and we don't do that. So you would have to be normal. That's the catch, just like these people that you see on the screen. Now, I want to talk about my 90-day back to normal diabetic program. I developed this to take you back to normal in the fastest and safest way possible because we use state-of-the-art software that goes literally right on your phone. And you know you look at it every day. So you don't have to do anything extra. You look at your phone, and what you're going to find on the app, and every day you're going to see a 2-minute video of me explaining what's going to happen with you that day. Then there'll be one topic, and that topic will be defined as what you're going to do, why you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it. So what you're doing that day, why you're doing it, and how you're going to do it. And then you'll have a little task, just one little task to make sure that you're accountable, that you're actually understanding and you're following through, right? And sometimes we have to do that, right, to patients to keep you in line. And if you happen to go astray and you get out of sorts a little bit, the program, the app will literally will text your coach and let them know within 24 hours to get you back on track so you won't be losing any ground and you can be able to make that 90-day goal. So that's about the technology. Now let's listen to what other people have to say about.
It's Mark Avery, and I wanted to give my experience with the insulin diet. I had a lot of health issues, not being able to hold a job because I had congestive heart failure and not being able to breathe just when I bent over to tie my shoes or go up 3 stairs. You can see that's an autoimmune disease. I used to stay sick all the time with everything, common colds. If I could catch it, I caught it. I was a severe diabetic. I was taking insulin, injecting myself with it 4, sometimes up to 6 times daily. Also, I was on metformin. I have stage 3 kidney disease. My kidneys were going downhill pretty quickly. They told me it was only a matter of time before I ended up on dialysis. All right, I've been on the insulin diet now for, I think, going on 3 years. There's a short summary of it. In the 3 years I've been on it, I've lost over 100 pounds, which this is 100 pounds of weight loss. I'm still a big guy, but I'm not nearly as big as I used to be. I went from 16 medications total, most of those for blood pressure. Going on insulin, I'm completely medication weight loss. I've had increased energy, increased clarity in thinking. I went from not being able to really get around and do much of anything to being able to get up and play with my kids. Being able to walk 25,000 steps a day.
Wow, huh? 100 pounds down, 16 medications off, all of them. And so people want to know, is this sustainable? You heard him, he's been on it for 3 years and he's loving life. He's loving life. Could that be you? Well, here we have 3 choices. You have 3 choices, rather. You can keep doing what you've been doing and expect something different to come out of that. But some people say that's the definition of insanity. Then you could do nothing and hope that a miracle drug is going to come out. But unfortunately, you know that all drugs come with unwanted and often dangerous side effects. And then there's my proven 90-day back to normal diabetic program. So if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired and you're ready to move forward, then this is what I have for you, a very special offer. And it looks like this: a free discovery phone call, a one-on-one phone call with me where you and I just sit down and talk about you, what's going on with you. And I don't care whether you're newly diagnosed, like I said earlier, or type 1, type 1.5, type 2, you've had it for 40, 50, or 60 years. It doesn't matter. We've seen it all. We've helped most everyone, 93.2% to be exact. All you have to do is click that button that you see on the screen right there. Go put your mouse over there and tap the screen, and you may never have to take medications again. You may not have to get any more extremities amputated, and you certainly don't want to worry about going blind. So by clicking the blue button now, when we get on the phone call, we're going to customize this 90-day program just for you, because I've only given you broad strokes here in this very short webinar. I haven't specifically talked to you and found out what your specific challenges are and how we have to tailor the program to you. You're unique, right? Doesn't that make sense? All right. So this is a one-time offer, though. Normally, my consultations, if you go to the website, theinsulthindiet.com, and you book a consultation with me, you're going to notice it's $200. That's no joke. It's $200. Today, for you to go ahead for a limited time with limited space, go ahead and click that blue button, and you're going to talk to me one-on-one for free. And again, this is not for everyone, because if you don't have a pit in your stomach, I'm not going to put a pit there. You're going to have to really want it. And if you've never been normal, sorry, we can't help you. You would have to have been normal at one point in your life, because that's where we're going to take you, right? It makes sense, right? We can't take you back to normal if you've never been normal. But if you've been normal, congratulations, you can go back again. So book a free discovery call with me now just by clicking on that blue button. When you book the call, you should know that it's going to go directly to my calendar. You'll see some free appointments there, openings, and just go ahead and click on those. And when you schedule that time, we will call you at that time, and that's when we're going to go deep. We're going to ask you, hey, what have you been going through? What's that been like? What kind of medications? What's your history? And, you know, the 40 minutes or so that we spend on that phone will be worth every second that you take to spend that with me, and it won't cost you a dime. So click the blue button. Final call. There's a limited number of coaches. There's over 200 million pre-diabetic, diabetics, and fatty livers right now in this country. There's over 1 million worldwide, and that number is growing exponentially every day, which means we're going to be filled up really, really soon. So take your chances. If you want to wait for later, you want to think about it, you want to say, well, Dr. Grego, you know, I've put a lot of money into other programs. Okay, I'm sorry, but you haven't put money into this program. And you put in a lot of money with programs that we're trying to cure a disease that doesn't exist. You know now that that disease is actually a description, meaning sweet pea. Sweet pea is not an etiology. It's not a pathophysiology. It's not a reason why you have sugar coming out in your urine or excess of sugar in your blood. So if you understand that, that's why those other programs didn't work. I'm sorry. They were basing it on a disease that doesn't exist. We're not doing that. We understand that your cells are full, they're not working correctly, or you're not pumping out enough insulin if you're a type 1 or 1.5. So we have methods and ways in 90 days where we can regenerate new cells that are healthy. And we've proven that many, many times. So will you be next? Will you take that leap of faith? I believe everything in life happens for a reason. I believe there's no accident for you guys to be on this phone with me right now, right, on this webinar rather, and on the phone, if you so desire. And I'm going to cut it now and say I hope and pray that you guys will make a decision that's right, and you'll take that step. Everybody that started the diabetic program, the 90-day program, started by talking with me, and that's exactly what you're doing. The only difference there is they paid for it. You don't have to. All right. Thanks so much for staying and playing with me. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope I've been more than just entertaining, because information without action is just entertainment. And if you don't take action, man, I'm going to feel like I missed. I should have said it. I should have said something else to you. I should have said it in a different way. So please take action. I promise you won't regret it. You're going to go ahead and get on a program that truly, truly understands that diabetes is not just sweet pea, that there's something going on with the cell that needs to be fixed, and we know how to fix it. Thanks so much for now. Remember to live your lives out loud and insulin thin.